Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. In this video I'm going to be going over another writing exercise, exercise 3, using adverbs properly. So, what are adverbs? Adverbs are verbs that modify other verbs, adjectives, prepositions, phrases, clauses, or other adverbs. They add emphasis and significance to other words. But there are some do's and don'ts that I have when it comes to using adverbs, because I myself used to use them quite a bit when I first started writing. But there are some things to keep in mind if writers are going to use them. And the first do is to use adverbs sparingly. This is a very important key point to keep in mind, because when you use adverbs too frequently, it can make the pacing of your story slower, and it also can just clutter your writing when you use adverbs too much. So do use adverbs sparingly. The first don't that I have is don't use an adverb when another verb can replace it. In some cases, you may not actually need an adverb because there's another verb that actually means the same thing as the adverb is doing to modify another verb. So that is the first don't to keep in mind. And the last don't that I have is don't use more than one adverb to describe a verb, adjective, etc. If you're going to use an adverb, it's a good idea to just use only one adverb instead of multiple adverbs, because again, that can cause your writing and the pacing of your sentences to be more slower and more cluttered. Below here I have a sample from one of my novels of my highly appraised series about my character Isaiah, and I just have a picture of the older version of him here. I'm just going to read over this passage and then see how I can remove some of these adverbs within this sample. Isaiah entered the church and walked slowly down the aisle. He stepped up the carpet stairs of the altar, stood behind the wooden pulpit, and gripped his wrinkled leathery hands on the sides of it. He looked carefully and closely over his silver-framed eyeglasses at the vacant pews. Although nobody was sitting in the sanctuary, he imagined the room was packed with people from front to back. He drew a long breath and sighed heavily. "Good morning, church. Welcome back to our beautiful sanctuary." His voice echoed in the empty space. Isaiah smiled broadly and observed the full view of the rows of blue-cushioned pews. After months of hard work and renovation, it was finally time for the congregation to welcome their community and worship together again. Okay, here we have walked slowly. Instead of having walked slowly here, we could just put another verb in place of this to remove this slowly adverb and just put sauntered. Because sauntered pretty much means the same thing as walked slowly. Below here we have he looked carefully and closely over his silver-framed eyeglasses. Instead of having these two adverbs here, we could replace it with another single verb and put scrutinized, or we could just put examined. There. And I'm also going to rearrange the wording a bit because it just sounds better if I put vacant pews here. Now we have, he examined the vacant pews over his silver-framed eyeglasses. There. In the third part we have, he drew a long breath and sighed heavily. Here we actually could keep the adverb here because heavily is describing how he is sighing, and it's adding more emphasis as adverbs are meant to do. So we don't actually need to remove the adverb here. And in the last line, or part of this sample, we have Isaiah smiled broadly. Instead of putting smiled broadly here, we could use another single verb and just put Isaiah grinned. There. This is just how an example of how you can remove adverbs from your writing by using other verbs in place of them. To help keep in mind about the do's and don'ts of adverbs, one way is a quote by Stephen King, who said, "The road to hell is paved with adverbs, and I will shout it from the rooftops. To put it another way, they're like dandelions. If you have one in your lawn, it looks pretty and unique." That is all that I have for this video, and thank you for watching.